Stocks not summer gains led by heavyweights amid uncertainties over policy actions by Donald Trump after he takes charge as US president today. Telecom and financial see big gains while healthcare and FMCG drag. Kotak Mahindra Bank scores on all counts in Q3 with margins, asset quality and business growth surpassing street expectations. Brokerages upgrade the stock. Wipro grows faster than expected in Q3 and achieves its margin aspiration of 17 to 17.5%. A revision in capital return policy to 70% or more from 45 to 50% earlier also instills confidence. Now stock climbs on the back of this. CNBC-TV18 learns the government is considering waiver of AGR dues from Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel. The government waive the AGR penalty and interest dues, and the move comes on the back of a 2024 Supreme Court ruling that upheld the government's AGR demand. Donald Trump is all set to return to the White House as the 47th U.S. president tonight. Reports suggest a flurry of executive orders are set to be unveiled in his first few days of office. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC TV18 and I'm Vinny Motiwala. A quick look at what the market is doing today. We're managing to hold on to the green. So good Monday morning that is coming in. Nifty holding on to 0.5% trade. Bank, that's holding on to good gains as well of more than 1%. PSU banks, let's look at that. That's the outperformer coming in as well. I beg your pardon. So PSU banks, that's holding on to very good gains. Now, mid and small cap managing to perform in tandem with the benchmark indices. So let's keep an eye out on that. Nifty mid-cap as well as a small cap, both holding on to gains of 0.6% approximately, recovered from the day's lowest point. Small cap also trading at the day's highest point right now, 0.8% of gain that we're seeing coming in there. What's among the top drags today that are coming in is the Nifty Auto. That's not managing to do well, and that is among the top sectoral losers that we are seeing coming in terms of the trading session today. So yes, a lot of individual movers also that we're seeing in terms of the back of the earnings, and that is what we'll talk about today as well. Kotak Mahindra Bank, let's pull that chart up because that's doing quite well in trade. 9% uptick in today's trading session. So strong up move that has come in because they reported a better than expected Q3 result this time. Abhishek is here to tell us more in terms of the earnings fine print, what the brokerages are saying as well, and 9% uptick. Why is that so? Abhishek, take it across.
Well, Kotak Mahindra Bank reported a Q3 FY25 performance, which was across various parameters much better than anticipated by analysts on street. So analysts were expecting a decline in net interest margin by about 5 to 6 basis points sequentially. But on the contrary, the net interest margin has actually expanded by 2 basis points sequentially. Slippages declined quarter on quarter versus analysts' estimate of rising slippages on a sequential basis. So that's helped the gross NP ratio come down to 1.5% versus 1.56% in the previous quarter. Even the business momentum was better than analysts' expectations. So deposit growth was at 15.9% YOY versus Motilal Oswal estimate of about 15% YOY. While advances growth was at 15.1% year on year, while Motilal Oswal anticipated advances growth of 14% year on year. With reference to the PNL versus ARPOL, it was a beat across NII as well as PAT. Brokerages have upgraded the stock, or they remain bullish on the stock. Citi has written on Kotak Mahindra Bank. They have a buy recommendation, target price of 2,070 per share, and they say that their 90 days positive catalyst watch remains open on Kotak Mahindra Bank. ICICI Securities has upgraded the stock to buy from hold, increased the target price to 2,050 from 1,850 earlier. While Anand Rathi has also written on Kotak Mahindra Bank, they have upgraded the stock to buy from hold, increased the target price to 2,010 per share from 1,950 that they had earlier. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Abhishek. But that's not only Kotak Mahindra Bank that's reacting positively to numbers. Today we have Wipro that's reacting to a good set of numbers in Q3. It was a beat on revenue and margins in terms of constant currency. Also, the revenue growth at 0.1%, better than what the street was expecting. Now, the guidance of the company also was revised. The capital allocation policy was also higher. And we caught up with the management of the company to discuss their Q3 performance. Let's listen in to the conversation.
As in Q3, I think the team has come together. There has been a significant rigor into execution, helping us with both on the top line and also on the margins. We see the discretionary spend coming back, but slowly. In terms of the specific industries, I think banking, financial services is definitely right there. And typically, if you have seen, when the discretionary spend comes back in banking and financial services, other industries catch up. I think that's what we are waiting and watching at this point in time.
As we get into Q4, we feel confident about holding these margins in a narrow band. And after that, it's a set of factors. Hopefully the revenue environment improves. And we also need to invest for the growth. So these will be the two big factors that will play out for improvements from here on.
Let's move on, and the government is considering telecom industry's demand for AGR waiver. Now, CNBC-TV18 has independently confirmed the news report. Asmit is joining in with us to give us that detail.
Well, clearly this has been a long pending demand of the industry. The industry, suffering repeated setbacks at the hands of the Supreme Court, had turned to the doors of the DOT, the government, to grant some relief. Now, since the September 2024 decision by the Supreme Court, which closed the chapter on the Supreme Court proceedings, rejecting the curative application, there were concerns raised by the affected telecom players before the DOT, and that is what the government has chosen to respond to by way of considering the submissions that have been made. Bear in mind, the figures are mammoth as far as the industry is concerned. Vodafone Idea, with the staggered interest payments, that figure, that AGR demand figure, has stacked up to north of 80,000 crore rupees. Bharti Airtel is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 42,000 crore rupees. And these figures is something that they're competing with, that they're struggling with. And towards that end, the government is contemplating, not deciding as of yet, but contemplating waiving off the penalty and the interest component of the AGR demand. The AGR demand had a principal, an interest and a penalty component. The government is considering waiving off the penalty and the interest component, either fully or partially. That is under consideration. But there are a few aspects to bear in mind. Number one, the Supreme Court repeatedly in 2019, 2020, 2021, then subsequently in 2024 has dismissed any and all approaches being made by the telecom companies to dilute this demand, to readdress this demand, to recompute the demand. In fact, the only relief that they've allowed is a moratorium and a staggered payment, and that too with an interest component, so that the net present value is maintained. That is importantly something to bear in mind. That moratorium runs out later this year. Those payments start kicking in September 2026. And finally, the third aspect, that if at all a waiver is granted, this would be relinquishing of public funds by the government to the private sector. That is something that is going to weigh on the minds of the government as they go about the various levels of approvals that may be required for this decision. So no timeline yet, no final decision yet. But yes, the government is considering if at all a relief can be granted to the telecom sector. Back to you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ashmit. Now, the much-awaited budget session of the Parliament will begin from January 31st. The budget session will begin with the President addressing a joint session of the Parliament. The first part of the budget session will be completed by 13th February, and after the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presents the budget on 1st of February. The second phase will start on March 10th and will continue till April 4th. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Now, ahead of his inauguration, President-elect Donald Trump addressed his supporters in Washington, D.C., where he promised to make America great again. He also visited a fireworks show and paid tribute to the fallen soldiers at the Arlington War Memorial. And for more on what to expect today, we have Sanjay Survi joining in with us.
President-elect Donald Trump will visit White House on Monday morning and together with Joe Biden drive to Capitol Hill where the inauguration ceremony is due. It hasn't always gone to plan. It didn't last time. Trump refused to do that and Joe Biden went to the ceremony at Capitol Hill on his own. But the idea of the two going together is to make a demonstration that the transition has been smooth and democratic and the way it should be. The oath-taking ceremony will take place in the Rotunda room, which is a round room directly under that dome there, and that does mean there's limited space. It's only going to be those with tickets for the presidential platform and members of the Congress all standing. A lot of people who were ticketed to attend that ceremony in there will not be able to join that ceremony for that reason. Both the Vice President J.D. Vance and President Trump will be sworn in. First, it will be J.D. Vance just before 12 noon, and then at 12 noon, Trump will be sworn in as president. He'll be given the oath of office by John Roberts, who is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The oath is really quite simple. President Trump will then swear to uphold the Constitution and to carry out his duties faithfully as the executive head of the government. Following that, there will be the national anthem played by the Marines and then a 21-gun salute, at the end of which President Trump then will give his inaugural address. At the very end of the event, a helicopter will fly Joe Biden away. Trump then heads to Capitol One, an indoor venue for an indoor parade and a concert. He will then move to the White House to sign a whole lot of orders waiting on his table. And aren't we waiting to see what these will be?
Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, among the many key issues, all eyes are on Trump's immigration policy and what it could mean for the H-1B visa applicants and holders. Here is a view from the chair of India and Emerging Asia Economics at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Richard Rosso.
And it is an area that I think, unlike illegal immigration, is up for a lot more debate within the Trump camp. We've seen that spill over in recent weeks. You know, you've got some of the nativist groups that support Trump and want to see immigration stopped at every turn. But you've seen Trump actively engaging and courting a lot of technology companies. You know, some of the sort of kitchen cabinet that's been spending time with him down in Mar-a-Lago and is expected, including, you know, playing some roles in the new government. They are very supportive of keeping the pipeline open on H-1Bs. So when you think about Trump and some curbs on immigration, illegal coming from the southern border, that is by far for his driver what's going to focus, be the main focus. On tech workers and H-1Bs, there's a pretty vibrant debate, and I know how that probably looks in India, but it is an area that within Trump's own camp is going to be heavily debated.
Now, a host of global leaders, including industrialists and diplomats, are going to be present for the inauguration. Reliance Industries chairman Mukesh Ambani and his wife Anita Ambani will also be attending the second inauguration, which will be graced by America's most influential billionaires, politicians, foreign dignitaries as well as celebrities. Now, the Ambanis joined a select group of just 100 guests for a private candlelit dinner with Trump. The Ambanis were the only Indians present at the dinner, which saw Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance meeting the Ambanis. Mukesh and Anita Ambani will be attending the inauguration on January 20th as personal guests of the Trump family. And as we slip into the break, here's some good news for our viewers. India's business news leader is now a click away, introducing CNBC-TV18's all-new app. Get instant access to breaking news, new in-depth articles and financial world updates at your fingertips. Download the CNBC-TV18 app now from the Apple Store and Google Play Store, or just scan the QR code on your screen. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Now, moving on to the latest updates that are coming in from West Asia. Hamas has released 3 hostages, while 90 Palestinian prisoners were released by Israel as a part of the Phase 1 of the ceasefire deal. NBC's Richard Engel is bringing us more updates from Jerusalem on this.
Hamas fighters were out in force for the hostage release in Gaza City. There were hundreds of militants on the streets. For Hamas, this was also a show of strength. Then the Red Cross, the designated intermediary, arrived, their convoy approaching slowly. Thousands of Gazans came out to watch. The Red Cross and Hamas vehicles parked right across from each other, just yards apart. So the exchange would be quick. No parading of the hostages out in the open. Hamas released its own video of the handover. The women were transferred to the Red Cross vehicles. Then they were driven into Israel and received by security forces, free and safe at last. And after 15 months, their mothers and other family members were on hand to embrace them. Roni Gonin, kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival, where 364 people were killed. Daron Steinbrecher, a veterinary nurse, kidnapped from Kfar Aza, a kibbutz near Gaza. And Emily Damari, British-Israeli, kidnapped from the same kibbutz. In Tel Aviv, thousands came to what's become known as Hostage Square to watch it all unfold live on a big screen.
And word has just come that they are now safely inside Israel. Romy, Daron, and Emily, everyone here knows them by their first name. Many people consider them almost like members of their own families.
There were tears and celebrations. But no one said it's over as long as dozens of hostages remain captive in Gaza.
We want all of them to come back. We want all of them to be here, and just like it's our mission.
In Gaza, for the first time in 15 months, Israeli strikes have stopped. As part of the deal, aid trucks flowed in. So much is needed. Gaza is in ruins.
Let's move on. The role of AI is not to replace humans, but to augment them. That's the message from the World Economic Forum ahead of the Davos huddle. Kathy Lee, who heads AI, data and metaverse policy at World Economic Forum, pitched for human-centric AI policies. Listen in.
It's all about AI. I mean, we're talking about collaboration in an intelligence era, which is the overarching theme. And I walked down the promenade, which I did. Literally everyone has some sort of AI that's up for attention.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a trend that's been continuing for the last 12 months. And if you think about last year, it was very much about how AI is applied in the industry in terms of cost cutting, incremental efficiency gains. This year, actually, we're seeing hard numbers and real, real statistics. For example, the companies that's leading in AI adoption are seeing a 15% in revenue growth, and this growth will continue at least until the end of the decade. At the same time, this growth, if you think about it, could contribute up to $7.6 to $17.9 trillion to the global economy by 2038. And this number actually has been backed by our upcoming AI transformation of industries report series that we're going to publish on Tuesday.
Well, those are big numbers, but that's also a very wide range, Kathy, to go from 7 to 17.
Exactly.
What will it take to go from 7 trillion to 17 trillion in terms of gains?
That's an excellent question, because we believe to be able to capture the upper end of the value, the economy needs to be built with human-centric. What we mean by that is AI cannot be replacing human. It needs to be augmenting human, augmenting the skills that we have now. Humans will not be replaced by AI, but it might be replaced by humans who actually use AI. So that's the core message. And AI cannot be applied in this kind of a cookie cutter kind of fashion. You need to look at each country, each region, what are the strengths, where can you apply AI to actually get the maximum gains. Similarly, within the organizations as well. We now have, I think, up to 74% of the companies are using AI in some sort of functions, but many of them are struggling with scaling. They cannot move beyond the pilot kind of phase.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's only like 16% of the companies who are fully prepared. So to really move the needle, you need to make sure that most of the companies and the industry sector and countries as well be able to really look at what is my strengths, what is my weakness, where can I use AI to augment human instead of replacing. That's how we can get the maximum gains.
Okay, that's all the time that we have on this edition of Business Lunch on CNBC TV 18. Thank you so much for tuning in. Up next, Midcap Radar.